By the gods, it's high charity. Brace for impact. Or, Halo Infinite, and we should probably brace for all the whining and complaining that comes along with the new game in a series. Hey guys, it's Winter, and Aegis is joining me today in a discussion about Halo. Now, we're going to start off with what already exists in the current gaming situation. We're going to talk about the Master Chief Collection. We're going to talk about the new armors and the new Halo multiplayer map for Halo 3. And then we're going to get into a bit of discussion about Halo Wars 2, its future or lack thereof of a future. And then we're going to discuss Halo Infinite. Now, we're going to try a slightly different method today. We are going to try to keep this podcast a little shorter, see if it helps with viewer retention. So please forgive us if this video seems rushed or shorter. Let us know if you would prefer longer content in the comments. Okay, just with that being said, let's start off with our very first topic, the latest season of the Master Chief Collection. I've heard from you that there is controversy. I don't have a lot of background on it. I just downloaded the Master Chief Collection myself, and I don't have a ton of complaints. So tell me what people are complaining about.
Well, I mean, what's to complain about? First off, you got these free battle passes where you can unlock cosmetics for your weapons and armor skins. Uh, at the prospect of getting a new map sounds amazing, and that's free. What the fans or some people in the player base are actually pissed off about is just some people really like old-fashioned looking Halo 3. Now, when 343 Industries uh, I guess, issued their orders for Saber Interactive to close Halo Online to stop actually supporting that. Uh, I believe, they absorbed some of their assets, or they were able to work with some of those individuals who worked at the company, and using a lot of their, I guess, developed things like armor sets and map designs. What 343 is actually doing is they imported 4 armor skins, I believe, into Halo 3. Now, people don't like this because it actually, in their eyes, like I guess, contrasts with the established aesthetic and look of Halo 3 since the last 14 years. Now, I think that's a little ridiculous because it's free content. It's content for a 14-year-old game that doesn't need to be updated because it's 14 years old. You would think that's on life support, but I mean, here we are in 2021 where Halo 3 is getting updates. I mean, between that, it's kind of the same issue people have with the new map. Uh, the map was actually completely developed new by 343, based solely on concept art for the map called Waterfall for Halo Online, now for Halo MCC. How's that sound?
Well, I have questions. So, Saber, was this Halo Online basically stolen software, stolen engine, and then used for profit?
I don't know if they actually made profits on it. They probably made some through advertising and stuff, but I think they end up retooling a Russian version of Halo 3, like for a computer that was never released in North America, and
Right.
they took it from where it was at in the beta stage for Russia, and they actually fully kept developing and modding it to where it was, I believe, 3 years ago before it was shut down.
Right. So best case scenario from what you're explaining to me is it was stolen software, stolen game engine, stolen tech, and they might have used it for profit through things like ads. So I would say, I guess, first of all, even though I support modding in a gaming community, I don't support blatant theft. Therefore, I would say there's very little argument it deserved to be shut down. In my opinion, from there, even though I'm not the biggest fan of 343, it sounds like they did it in probably the best way they could. They interacted with a community that was clearly passionate about the game, clearly was willing to take the game far further and support it for a lot longer than the actual developers themselves, and worked with them. So while I have questions, and anyone listening to this, I don't know the full backstory. So just going off a brief description, I would say it deserved to be shut down. I also like hearing about fan passion, and I like hearing about companies willing to work with it. So I do support most parts of what happened. Um, and I'm with you, Aegis. Once it gets to the point where they're releasing the extra content into the game, you've even told me that if you don't want to see it, there's a button to deactivate its visibility on your screen. Is that accurate?
Yeah, so fans actually end up complaining enough to the point where like a lot of like the community managers for 343 said, we have to like address this, nip it in the bud as soon as possible. There's actually a toggle feature where you can disable seeing any cosmetics in Halo 3. I believe it's Halo 3, but it could be for the rest of MCC, but I think at the very least it is Halo 3. But that's just what complaining will get you, folks. Eventually, if you scream loud enough, it will get you what you want.
Yeah, and while I don't know if I agree that 343 buckled and gave, a vocal, probably minority of the community what they wanted, at the end of the day, it doesn't impact anybody else. If you like the skins, you can turn them on, you can use them yourself, and if you don't like them, you can turn off the ability to see them. I don't necessarily agree with fans being able to shut down artistic license. However, it sounds like a best of both worlds for everybody. Um, I don't see why the whining is a thing. As for the map, I would say any game that's getting a new map, 10 years, 15 years. How long has it been since Halo 3?
It's been
10 years?
14.
It's been 14. It was close to 15.
Yep.
Um, so close to 15 years into its release window. Um, Getting new content is pretty great no matter what. In fact, I was pretty, again, I guess I got Master Chief Collection on sale, but I was pretty impressed with what I got with the Master Chief Collection. To me, the map itself, I've only personally seen the screenshot of the overarching map. I'm not that impressed with it. It reminds me of, I think it's called Narrows from maybe Halo 2 or 3, or is specifically Longest from Halo 1. I get that it's kind of encouraging that long alleyway kind of long-term shooting at each other with people trying to intersect into the hallways. I was never a huge fan of those maps. However, I always love when a new map enters rotation because it forces some change of gameplay. Would you agree with any of that, or are you looking
Oh,
forward to that more than me?
so I think the map actually does look kind of like Narrows. And were you actually thinking of like the map from Halo 2 called Elongation, where you have like the shipping containers on the conveyor belts moving back and forth?
Yeah, it might be that. There was one level that recently I was playing on the Master Chief Collection, and I forget what it's called, but it looks like you're on a Forerunner ship, and there's a bunch of vertical not teleport, almost like lifts that launch you in the air, and basically there's like three levels on a really long ship. It reminded me of that too. What I'm saying is it reminds me of the long and narrow maps in Halo, which I'm not the biggest fan personally, but again, free content's free content, and map diversity is essential. You're not going to love every map that comes out, right? And I'm only guessing based on one picture, so I could be entirely wrong, right?
But yeah, I think you're right. It's right in the nose. Like it looks like it's a long, like kind of like maybe a narrowish map, and you got like your probably your 2 or 3 lanes of like main modes where the action's going to be. That's I think they're kind of playing it safe there with that kind of like map layout. It's pretty common for FPSs to kind of like have like your 2 or 3 main lanes of like shooting and like mechanics.
Yeah, and it is kind of abnormal that they didn't take a risk so late into the game, because usually when you get this far down the line is when you start to get some kind of zanier maps to keep things fresh. But maybe they're looking at it from a competitive perspective and they just want a new map for the competitive arena. It makes sense. I don't even know if competitive arena still exists for Halo 3. But at the end of the day, we're beating this to death. I would just say I support all new content. If you don't like it, don't use it. And since you got what you wanted, if you don't like it, turn it off, since apparently you can.
Bingo.
Or you can cry me a river, build me a bridge, and go off the waterfall.
Nice, nice one. Uh,
Mm,
yeah. So I guess moving on from that, we can kind of start touching on Halo Wars 2. You think?
yeah, we can talk Halo Wars.
So first off, you played Halo Wars 1 and 2, and I assume being an RTS fan, you liked them. Do you want to give any general thoughts on the games?
Yeah, I can do that. So for anyone who doesn't know me, which means pretty much everybody who would be listening to this, I am a very big StarCraft 2 fan, and to a lesser extent, simply because I didn't get into it when it first came out, I am a StarCraft Brood Wars fan. Um, I liked the complication of those games. I liked how difficult they were. You spend a lot of time being a Bronze League hero before you learn quite how to play. With that being said, the StarCraft storyline was always very cheesy beautiful cutscenes, beautiful rendering, well thought out battle scenarios in single player, but the story, especially going into StarCraft 2, was extremely cheesy. I would say my impression of Halo Wars is almost the inverse. They chose a very simplistic gameplay style that lends itself very well to single player. A more casual person can pick up the game, play it, and enjoy it, and then enjoy these beautiful cutscenes where fortunately they took the time to think out a much better story than StarCraft ever bothered to do. Where you get the weakness in Halo Wars is that oversimplicity does not lend itself to a competitive multiplayer scene. It's too basic. The people who play these kind of games are highly competitive. They spend hundreds of hours mastering what they're learning to do. If it takes 20 hours to figure out how to make the perfect play strategy that's basically unbeatable to anyone except someone who plays it nonstop, it's not an RTS that's going to work out, right? It's not. You need to have that ability for the meta to adjust, evolve, um, and change. And with oversimplification, like I saw in Halo Wars One specifically, and then still in Halo Wars Two to a lesser extent, you're never going to get that competitive edge that you saw in StarCraft.
No, you're not. That's the thing, because I come back from playing StarCraft 2 a little bit. I always like Protoss, but like there's definitely it's a lot more complicated, a lot more like resource juggling, and then making like your I guess your little ads or like you're making them at the right rate and stuff, and then defend your base. But with I always found with Halo Wars, especially Halo Wars 2, it feels like the game, if it was adapted as an FPS, it would have played a lot better, and like it would have lended itself a lot more to just how intense the story was, and then mechanically your boots on the ground as a soldier, right?
Right. Yeah, and I don't know. I can see an argument both ways that Halo kind of needed an offshoot. I mean, don't forget, Halo started as not a. I mean, StarCraft ripoff is not fair. In fact, I think StarCraft might have been a Halo ripoff, but it started more as a StarCraft game. Then it became a third person shooter. Then it became a first person shooter. Then they ported it to Xbox. So if you look at Halo's history, it's actually kind of interesting that they went to full 180 and went back to what it was originally supposed to be. I
Hmm.
actually think it was kind of a good idea. But I agree with you. The story seemed more personal than you would expect something where you control armies to be.
And I mean, really it made sense to keep like the mechanics of an RTS simple because when you have a large player base that's used to FPSs, they might not be experienced in playing RTSs and they might get frustrated. So having a simple mechanics for that, kind of makes sense and lends to maybe selling more copies.
Yeah, but they had such an opportunity to pull in players from Warcraft and to pull in players from StarCraft because I know when it came out, especially Halo Wars 2, people were starting after a decade to get tired of StarCraft and they were excited for another option. And a lot of my friends who played that game, I remember played Halo Wars for about a week and then they were like, well, I solved it. I'm not that interested in this anymore.
Yeah, it was a
So
beaten
I
game at that
think,
point.
right. And if you're going to create a game like that, the expectation is it's going to last a decade or two because it's constantly going to be shifting and it's not going to get boring. These games, while the cutscenes are always beautiful, were never designed for the graphics. They were designed for strategy, right? It's right in the name, RTS. And for anyone who doesn't know, real time strategy. So the issue is when you have StarCraft, you have a game that's, I think StarCraft 2 has been around for a decade and Brood War has been along for, well, obviously it's been around for longer. But the way they supported it was StarCraft 2 is effectively three games. It's Wings of Liberty, Heart of the Swarm, and Legacy of the Void. But rather than releasing a new game, they released it as DLC, added in new balance patches, added in new vehicles, new types of units to keep it fresh, but not break the game. It was not as drastically different as the leap from Brood War into StarCraft 2. The problem is you need a player base that supports that, which I doubt at this point Halo Wars 2 has. I doubt 4 years into its career, Halo Wars 2 has the same amount of players left as StarCraft.
Well, I
Correct
mean,
me if I'm wrong.
well, the funny thing is, I think monthly Halo Wars 2 has about 60,000 players, like concurrently, which I think if you break that up in the daily, that's not a lot. But and
No,
that's the issue because like Halo Wars 1, I think launched in 2009, and then Halo Wars 2 launched in I think it was 2017 or 2016. I think it's
right.
2017. So that's 8 years later, and there was a DLC based on the Flood. I think a year after that or 6 months after that, and I think that DLC was actually pretty fun. But I
Right.
guess I guess coupled with how simple the mechanics are, there wasn't enough inflow of content to keep it fresh and maybe a lot of balance patches to update the game to make it feel fresher.
No, and I mean even StarCraft eventually had to go to microtransactions in order to sustain itself, which was a shame. But they did it by selling things like skins that didn't actually impact gameplay, said it was entirely voluntary. So I'm not sure about the whole 4 years thing for Halo Wars before they took away support. I get it; they don't have enough people playing the game to introduce microtransactions that are going to keep the game afloat. But at the same time, I would say 4 years for what was probably supposed to be a somewhat hardcore RTS. 4 years is a failure. Um, that's not a long lifetime for a game like that.
No,
It
it's
just
not.
isn't.
And I mean, on top of that point too, like for 4 years, and I don't believe there's even a whole lot of like balance patches and updates to help Halo Wars 2 stay fresh. It's not. I wouldn't say it was on life support, but when you're trying to revitalize the MCC to take it from how poor of a launch that was, and to bring it up to where it is now, Halo Wars 2 wasn't really the focus.
No, I would agree with that statement. And again, I never played Halo Wars 2 multiplayer very much because I tried Halo Wars 1 and it didn't hold my attention very well. But I guess I maybe would have hoped that maybe if 343 was going to take so much inspiration from Blizzard, they would take the inspiration that rather than doing a hard reset, releasing an all new DLC on the same engine, but basically as a full new game. Because in an RTS, a lot of people take a lot of pride in their game history. And I guess nowadays you could port that over to a new game, but you know, Legacy of the Void was the same engine as Wings of Liberty, but the graphics were far improved by that point. It was basically a new game, except for you didn't have to learn new buttons. You didn't have to completely reset your character, or not character, but your stats and all your information. So it helped keep that legacy going. Legacy. Anyway, the point is, the point is, I'm disappointed that they wouldn't take that because there were reasons for it in a game like that. So it kind of surprises me that they wouldn't just build on to Halo Wars 2. And yet,
Agreed.
as we're about to discuss later in the conversation, that's what they're about to do with something like Halo Infinite, where I actually don't support it all that much. But we're getting a little bit ahead of ourselves. Let's back up. They have been releasing images of the new Halo Infinite weapons and armor. I've only seen these recently, but I have taken a look at them. And I've also heard that now we can do what police and villains never do in movies. We can actually shoot the wheels out of someone fleeing from us. Talk to me about it. What do you
Yeah.
think of the new skins? What do you think of just the updated graphics? I mean, from what I've seen, this is 343 actually trying to put their foot forward a bit better than they did a year ago. It looks to me, just by freeze frames, that the actual graphics look better.
So what I'm gonna say first off is Halo 3 or Halo 5 actually, the graphics in the game when they launched, they were not at all what they were appeared to be like a year before in certain press kits and certain gameplay demos. The reason behind that is they had to dial back the lighting effects to make it easier for like competitive players to actually see players in the maps. That might sound silly, but you can actually look at like comparisons of the same map before and actually like before it was released and after release. Night and day,
Right.
and Halo 5 looked unreal in the beta, and at launch it looked like it was like claymation almost. Not claymation, but kind of like lifeless.
I find a lot of new games look very toyish, might not be the right word, but almost cartoony. It's weird. I find as graphics get better, a lot of games wind up looking more like cartoons.
It's almost like it's a combination of the poor lighting or it's like a stylistic choice.
Right, and they tried to cover their butts by saying that what happened with the Halo Infinite demo was a style choice. And while I could see some inspirations from Halo 2, especially the Halo 2 remaster, I want a game that looks like Halo 2, but I want it to be modern, and I don't think it looked bleeding edge modern. But
No,
we're getting off topic. What I want to know is, when you look at these guns and these armor sets, do you see Halo or do you see Halo 5? And
uh,
no, they aren't the same thing.
they aren't. So I see a blend of old with a splash of new and kind of like evolved. Because when you look at the Halo 2, like the BR that was shown for the Halo Infinite press kit, it looks unreal. You can see Halo 2 BR there. You can see some elements of Halo 5's BR, but it looks a little different than both. Different enough where it's like, hey, you know what? They're kind of like improving or modifying the design. It looks sleek. It looks like it's old, but I just want to put it in my hands and shoot it.
Yeah, I think it looks good. I wouldn't argue with that. I think it's a shame that I'm going to have to kill my liver and my heart a little bit more in order to get those slick black and green skins. That's a shame because I actually like them. We're not going to name any companies that I just belittled because we don't want to get punched in the face by a big company. But we all know what I'm talking about. Yeah,
But
I'm a little disappointed that such nice looking skins are not coming directly in the game, because especially it reminds me of my keyboard and mouse coloring. And I think it would have been kind of cool to have skins that aligned with that.
it it kind of sucks because like I know like you're referring to like they're not calling them skins, but they're shaders for the armor sets, right? Like where
Uh,
before it was like, sorry, what were you gonna say?
no, I'm talking about these skins for the guns that are being released alongside a promotion for
Oh, I what are they linked to? Because I know there's some that was linked to like,
an energy drink
it,
brand
oh,
that happens
that's
to be green and black. So I think that should give you enough hints as to what brand it's linked to.
yeah, I do. I know what you're talking about.
Right.
But yeah, so I think it's kind of a pain to attach it to like a branding like Seven Up or something. It's not Seven Up, but like something big corporate like that where it gets attention for your game, which it probably does need it because Halo's been out of like the limelight or off the radar for you know
So long.
re really so long. Like Halo 5 was the last new one that was in 2015, so 6 years. But
What I think is hilarious is just how much their ads are already running, because they had clearly already pre-made packaging and stuff before they delayed the game. So
yep,
now you got Halo Infinite stuff all over the place a year before it releases, and it'll probably be gone before it actually releases.
or expired like those XP bonuses for the weekends. Like what the
Yeah,
hell?
yeah, it to me it's amusing that they basically blew their budget on advertising a year before the game came out by accident. It's sad, but it's funny.
But it's for the
With
better
that
because
being
the game, like we saw how it launched at like the gameplay demo at like what was it, E3, did not look good
right.
at all. It looked like it was like Minecrafty, almost some of the background textures.
Right. Now, with that being said, I do want to say the same thing as you. I like how they're going with the weapon look. I also like how the armors look.
Yep.
I didn't look at any of them too far in depth, but I'm trying to find the names here. Yes, I wasn't the biggest fan of Scorpion or of Watchdog. I found that Scorpion was a little blocky and Watchdog was almost bland, but I was really a fan. Oh no, I got that all flipped up. Scorpion was the one that was kind of blocky, and then Defender looked very lacking in detail. Watchdog was nice, and so was Splinter.
Dude,
I think
Splinter looks like George. Or is that George's? No, that's Noble Defender
no,
I'm thinking of.
I think that's Defender, and I wasn't a big fan of George's armor, but I think
No.
my thing is I don't picture a soldier as a big bulky thing, even a super soldier. I, I think sleekness on the battlefield works well. So I guess I've always pictured more sleek armor as being more combat efficient. Now, we all know skins don't change gameplay, but unless you're playing something like Apex, where having the tiniest character gives you an advantage. But with that being said, I personally like the look of sleek armors more than I do kind of that bulk, and therefore I like them more. But overall, I even think the other two armors that I didn't like that much look good, and I think it's inevitable that some armors in a game you're just not going to like. They're not your style.
Yep.
What did you think of the armor sets?
I'm
Any
looking at them right
preferences?
now. Holy jeez, like I haven't seen them in a couple of weeks, and they
Right.
look unreal. Like Splinter looks awesome. That green visor looks great. What is it? There's Watchdog. There's two Watchdog pictures. But
Yeah,
there's
I wasn't sure if one was supposed to be a female frame or what it was supposed to be, but they look different.
they do. I thought one was ODST and the other one was Watchdog, but maybe I'm wrong.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
But
I'm not looking at them right now. I don't have the capability. I don't have multiple screens, but yes.
well, but yeah, I think they look really good. I think George's armor, the Noble Defender, looks like it does in Reach, but scaled up and looks a little, like nice, like nicer. Um,
Right. So
you
there's a difference. You like Defender and I don't.
Yep. But also, if you look like the lighting, like the undertones for like under like the plating, I know people like bitched about just how the lighting effects were on the armor in Halo 5. It looks like it's kind of like it's dark. Like it's not like it's popping out under the light. It's like a dark armor set.
Yeah, and that's fair. And I'm sure the white and silver coloring that they chose to preview with the Watchdog armor probably made me biased because that's the armor coloring I always go with. But that's what I'm saying is to me it looks good, even the ones I don't like. It doesn't look to me like they went too Power Rangery. And
Yeah,
at the end of the day, even the Power Rangery ones, I found a few I liked. So I don't see why people complain so much about the armors and skins. Customizability is nice. I was always kind of disappointed when you played team multiplayer that all your custom colors and stuff went away. Even though I got the point, always kind of disappointed me a bit.
well, it's kind of why they removed playable elites from like from 4 and 5 because and Reach because you it modified the hitbox and also like the gear sets it unlocks weren't the same across both like different characters.
Because Wraith being able to teleport and also being a freaking shorty wasn't unfair. Oh wait, wrong game. Sorry. Carry on.
No, but I'm looking at the rocket launcher right now, and it's the Spanker rocket launcher. Like I don't know if you remember Halo 5, but it was like a weird green like industrial rocket launcher, and it didn't really fit Halo, but they're bringing back the OG Spanker.
Oh, nice. Yeah. So yeah, and I was looking at a few of the different weapons as well. I really latched onto. I think it was there was a new brute weapon, which I think is a banished weapon,
Yeah,
if I got that right, the Mangler revolver and then the Bulldog shotgun. Now, I like it because I like the shotguns where you fire off a bazillion blasts, which is apparently what the Bulldog is.
yep.
The Mangler revolver wouldn't be my style of gameplay. My biggest concern is if there's multiple revolvers being introduced and multiple shotguns, I'm slightly concerned that means there's going to be weapon loadout customization again.
I think they learned their lesson from Halo 4, though. I think they're gonna continue on with Halo 5, so where like there's no loadouts, and same with like Halo 2 and 3. They're not gonna do that again. I think that the biggest thing for Halo is you're trying to contest the maps to get hold of the power weapons. So you get the sniper, the shotgun, this like the sword, gravity hammer, maybe.
And there's a distinct difference between me and you's style of how we play these games. I play SWAT because even though I enjoy Slayer, what always annoyed me about it was when someone finally got a hold of one of those power weapons, it modified the base of the entire game.
Well, then you gotta like kill them and then get it. It's kind of not like Juggernaut or King of the Hill, but you're trying to contest what they have and kill them. They're like the target.
Oh yeah, I get that, and I'm not complaining. I'm just saying that that is a very different point of view from me. I always thought that was part of the weaker side of the Halo games, was that side of Slayer, especially big team matches where someone would hop into a Banshee and get like 10 kills before someone managed to murder them.
Yeah.
And then teabag them repeatedly because even though we don't do that these days because we're more mature and society is more correct than that, they deserved it.
Speak for yourself. Also, one more thing. The weapons, they're a lot less busy than Halo 4 and 5. Now, when I say busy, you know what I mean? There's not a lot like things like sticking out or random colors everywhere or too much mechanization going on. It's sleek and simple.
Yeah, and again, I like that sleek look. Now, as much as we can go back and forth on this all day, we are sticking to a time crunch. Let's talk about post launch support very quickly before we wrap things up. What do you think of the fact that this is apparently going to be a very literal interpretation of Halo Infinite? This is going to be Halo for as long as the eye can see. I think 10 years is the real time they put on it, but for the indefinite future.
yeah, I think they did mention a 10-year period. So what I think from that is if they can update it with good content and good purpose, then I'm all for it. Like I could
Hey,
like it.
Destiny.
Well, I love Destiny. I play the hell of it. I would play more if
Oh,
I
I
had the
don't.
time or yeah. But like yeah, I know you don't. I very well know you don't. But if Halo had stuff like, raids or like big team battle updates were like maybe updates to firefight or like unlockable content for like like more gear to unlock, stuff like that, or new weapons to unlock or expansions to campaign, just
So
more
to
purpose.
clarify, I would like to step in and clarify here. You're saying 343 should continue to steal Bungie's ideas.
Well, that's what they've been doing, right?
Right. So I just wanted to clarify. For me, I'm not going to support this until I find out they plan to release basically new game DLC. I get it.
Well,
If they want to use the same engine, if they want to try to save money that way, if they want to switch over to a StarCraft based, we will just keep releasing updates that basically cost the amount of a full game. I'm fine with that. But they had better release full new storylines, full new multiplayer map rotation sets. Not, oh, we released one map. StarCraft would release multiple maps when they, in fact, a whole new map rotation when they did these big updates. It was effectively a new game, same engine. It saved them the engine building and stuff like that, but the front end didn't change. Everything was new except for that, including graphics updates. If they do that, I support it. If they start releasing piecemeal things like one new raid a month, which I hear is actually considered frequent, I'm not going to support it. To me, that's just nonsense. And if that's going to be the next 10 years of Halo, is we get one new raid every 3 months with one new map every 2 or 3 months, yeah, I'm not that interested.
I mean,
I'll
depends
play
on
it.
depends on the raid though. If you're thinking World of Warcraft, like I don't think they get raids every month in Destiny and like Division, they don't get raids every month. Like depends on what the definition of raid is for your game. Like
Mm,
but like this is also different because I don't believe you bought the map packs for Halo 2 when you're younger, right?
no, but a buddy of mine had them.
Yeah, that see whenever they release some like the legendary map pack, the heroic map pack, I was like, yes, more Halo, more different Halo. I was like a drug addicted like 16-year-old but for Halo.
Right. But what
But
I'm saying is these, it's fine if they want to release a new raid a month, but the big updates had better be full blown, effectively new games.
I
Not
think
just,
go ahead.
I was just going to say, not just continuously for indefinite amount of time releasing one new raid or a few new maps and calling it updates. I want to see real big updates every X amount of time.
Well, I think that would be like every few months, say get 3 or 4 maps, and then maybe get weapon skins, more forge tools. Like if this is the kind of game where like if they had like Spartan Ops from Halo 4, that seems like it'd be the perfect mechanism to introduce new story content because it was meant to be that. It just never was. But
That's fair.
but if Halo, I almost call it Destiny, if Halo can, deliver on more story and make it feel like, okay, this $20 to $40 is actually worth the price, then I'm all for it. If it's more like a Fortnite model, then to be frank, fuck that. That's not worth it.
And that's a fair opinion. And we're going to leave it on yet another swear word. Guys, we're at our time limit for today. I hope that you liked the slightly more brief format. We still tried to cover the same amount of content, just with, well, we'll say less rambling, but we both know it just means we cut each other off a few more times.
Pretty
Guys,
much.
this has been Glacial Field. We want to wish you guys a nice February coming to the end. Hopefully, you're not as snowed in as we are. Aegis, do you have anything to say before we leave?
Uh, no, I hope you guys, thanks for tuning in and thanks, see you later.
All right, guys, have a good night. Bye now.